It's time for Takes on Takes, the weekly episode where we give our takes on your take today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins, and we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
Joe, happy Friday. What kind of news dumps do you think we're going to get at 4 p.m. today?
Oh,
first week of the league calendar year. You
maybe
usually get Friday afternoon force dumps at like 4 p.m.
Yeah, that's cat on a swivel for that, right? That's a good call. Now we'll be thinking about that. Also, hey, happy Pi Day to you, Kyle. You know, how many digits can you go? How many can you go on Pi?
I think it's 3.1426 is as far as I can go.
It's 3.1459. That's as far as I can go. Yeah. So
there, you've had more Pi than me today.
Yeah.
I got 3.14.
You know, hadn't used it since those classes in high school, you know.
Yeah, they told you how important it was, and
I tell you, they told me I wouldn't have a calculator either. I sure do.
You know, when you're in the real world, you're not going to be able to have your calculator out with your TI-98 out with you to.
Boy, those graphing calculators! What a nightmare.
Wait for that old takes exposed to come out.
Yeah, that needs to be exposed right there. Put it down, Fred. Okay, let's do it, Kyle. Takes on takes. First one comes from Dolphins Craze. Dolphins Craze says Mac Jones starts a game in 2025 based off of a coach's decision, and the spirit of this one is based off of my Mason Rudolph bold bet.
Now, full disclosure, he did message me and said this is mostly a joke before anybody gets really mad.
Oh, why'd you have to do that? Wait a minute.
I will say no. That Brock Purdy will be benched after the good graces that he's built up, regardless of how much Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones in the draft. I'll say no.
I agree with you. I say no too, but I loved the idea on that. I've been thinking about who's my guy going to be this year. Got a little time for that to play out, but I'll come up with one. Michael says Geno Smith will throw for at least 500 more yards than Sam Darnold this season. Kyle, do you know how many more yards Geno Smith threw than Sam Darnold last year?
Did he throw more than Sam Darnold last year?
One more yard.
One more.
Literally 1 yard is what separated them. 500 more.
For Geno in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Versus Sans Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf in Seattle. I think this is a good take.
For sure. And I guess Seattle got rid of who's that college coach? I can't even remember his name. That was the OC. Ryan Grubb. Back Alabama. Good spot for him. They're going to run the ball a lot more, right? Like, Mike McDonald had to be losing his mind over that. They're going to play good defense in Seattle, run the ball.
What did we expect was going to happen with that?
Everything I feared it would be.
Right. Everything. It was the worst case outcome in every possible way.
500 more yards. Now, here's the thing. 500 more passing yards doesn't mean that Geno Smith will have a better season, per se. That's not a guarantee.
Right.
But the raw volume passing yardage, I can absolutely see this happening. Both of those guys had 500 yards more passing than Josh Allen last year. Did they have better seasons? So what I want to be careful with in this answer is that people aren't saying that, hey, we believe that definitively Geno Smith will have the better year. I think he's going to have more passing yards.
Yeah, I think more passing volume.
Bill comes with a hot one. Bill says Derek Harmon is the top 3 defensive tackle in this year's class and will be drafted before Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan.
I'm selling the second half of that.
Yeah, dude. Kenneth Grant. Do we need to start talking about like top 10, top 15, like probably the furthest down?
I could tell you in 3 of the last 4 mock drafts that I've had, Kenneth Grant's going in the top 10.
Man, I saw a mock draft today where some fan put it out there and was hoping they would trade back and get Kenneth Grant at 22. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
There's some people that are down on him. Like I think Todd McShay's down on him like that. Got him in the mid-20s, I believe, on his boot board.
They're not going to Dexter Lawrence this thing, are we? Like, that's not what's going to happen.
I mean, if we do, okay. Realistically, if you looked at the draft order, this is why I don't think Kenneth Grant's going to have to wait too long. Whether Jacksonville likes him over Mason Graham or not, different conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 5 is a defensive tackle spot. 6, probably not, with the way that the rest of Las Vegas has operated. The Jets, would you consider that a defensive tackle spot?
1,000,000%, yeah.
Probably not Carolina anymore after they invested the money in Bobby Brown and have Derek Brown coming back from injury. Would you consider New Orleans a possible defensive tackle spot?
100%, yeah. 100%.
I can't dismiss the Bears. I know they invested a couple of day 2 draft picks in a defensive tackles not that long ago, but regime change from a coaching staff perspective, like, I don't think it's like, hey, we're locked, stocked, and loaded on the defensive line. San Francisco,
100%.
With them moving on from everybody,
100%.
Does Dallas need interior defensive
100%.
line? Do the Dolphins need some interior? I think. Do they still have anybody other than Zach Sealer under contract?
Matt Dickerson, Kyle Krabs. Dude, he's not getting past 13. If he gets past the Dolphins at 13,
Atlanta cut Grady Jarrett,
dude.
You don't think Seattle wouldn't like him?
This guy's not touching these picks,
right?
Man.
There's no way he's getting out of top 20. I would be stunned if he gets out of top 20.
And it's that, right? It's the landscape and all the landmines. It's also who I think he is as a prospect.
He's extremely talented,
right, dude?
With
huge,
massive upside, athletic upside too.
These guys don't fall. These guys do not fall. All right, Chris says the most underrated offense. No, it's not. It's Chris Yankee.
Okay.
The most underrated offensive tackle in the NFL is Jake Matthews. He's consistently good to great, but never gets mentioned as a top-tier offensive tackle.
I think we should probably give some flowers to Jake Matthews here.
I feel like we do every year. Whenever we do our Falcons show in the summer, we have this Jake Matthews has started 170 games or whatever in a row.
Yeah.
He's only been to 1 Pro Bowl. 11 years in a row. Basically, he missed 1 game in 11 years. It was during his rookie season. I mean,
say that again.
He's missed 1 game in 11 seasons, and it was in his rookie season.
Dude, that is astronomically good.
He's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, just the absolute model of consistency in the NFL.
Do you know? All right.
Rabbit hole. Here it is. Kylan snaps an offensive lineman.
Down the rabbit hole here.
Here we go.
Snaps played.
11,000.
1,118, 1,045, 1,044, 1,025, 1,122, 1,126, 1,057, 1,158, 1,171, 1,126. That's the last decade of play at the NFL level for Jake Matthews from a snaps perspective.
Over 10,000. Wow, what does that equal total?
And he's had 1 season since 2017 in which he's given up more than 28 pressures across a full season. It's just that's a really good player, man. Yeah. He's a really good player.
A big old bouquet of flowers for Jake Matthews here. Well deserved here on Takes on Takes. All right, coming up next, we got a lot to get into, including a take about an underrated GM. Folks, be sure to stick with us. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. There are surprising insights. Folks, when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. The convenience is off the charts. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Plus, it's easy to collaborate. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, shall we? Weekly huddles coming in hot here. There is a bigger gap between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders than there is between Abdul Carter and James Pierce. I'm with you on this, Kyle. For the audio listeners, Kyle is shaking his head.
Not vehemently, but I did not think too long about it.
Kyle's,
right?
What do you call that? Just a little.
There's a meme where it's
you're
like
shaking off you don't want the curveball here. You want a different pitch.
I'm shaking off the call for a pitch. Pierce's Abdul Carter, I think, from a frame, mass, strength perspective versus Pierce, I think is a very dramatic difference. Where I think Cam Ward is a more gifted thrower, but he's also not like a marquee athlete that separates himself from Shedeur Sanders in that way as well. If that makes sense.
I agree that I don't agree with the take. So we're out on that. 216 from 716. What do you know what zip code 216 is? Now I got to know.
I'm about to find out. Keep going.
Is it not a zip code? It's an area code.
Area code.
Yeah,
Cleveland, Ohio.
So from Cleveland to Buffalo. Okay. Russ Wilson makes the Cleveland Browns a playoff team. We're shaking off another pitch.
Shaking off another pitch. Oh, I don't know at this stage in Russ's career that I buy the idea that he tangibly makes any offensive unit better than what it would be with a different option.
And I guess what I also concern myself with in Cleveland is, do they have the infrastructure to maximize the best things that Russell Wilson gives you, right? Which is like the deep throws. Do they have the running back receiving talent, right? I think those are the two things I think you need.
Mm-hmm.
Pass catchers at running back and ball winners down the field. Does Cleveland's arsenal scream that? And I think what I could respect about what 216 from 716 is saying is like the remainder of team here is not bad. Now, it's not. A couple of years ago, we were like all in on Cleveland because we thought their roster was really good, and that was the Joe Flacco year. I think we were kind of right about that. But
they ended up winning 12 games.
Yeah, right. So we're like, the roster's good, the remainder of the team's good. It's not that, but it's not that far off of it. But I think there are quarterbacks that can quarterback Cleveland to the playoffs. This has really got more to do with who I think Russell Wilson is than what I do think of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
All right, Von Tell's been trying to sneak this one in for a few weeks, so I'm finally going to bite. Lou Anarumo is a bad defensive coordinator that gets too much leeway because of what Pat Mahomes did in the second half 4 years ago. He has struggled to develop young players. He could thank Jesse Bates for still having people convinced that he's good.
I would agree that my opinion of Lou Anarumo now is significantly lower than what it was 3 years ago. I don't think he's a bad defensive mind by any means, though. And he's also, I don't think individually to blame for any lack of player development that you've seen from Cincinnati and some of the moves that they've made from a personnel standpoint on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so I thought Lou Anarumo coached at an extremely high level their Super Bowl run.
Yeah,
yeah, just
you could say that it's a family-friendly program,
and that was, I think, back in our previous line of work, the Bengals were like my responsibility. So I watched a lot of their tape, and I was continuously impressed with how different the defense would look like first half to second half. The adjustments were real and tangible, and they were so adaptable, and it was terrific. But I think with the Bengals, I think they just make it hard, man. They make it really hard for people to be successful there. And I think there has been some draft picks that maybe haven't turned into what they wanted them to be. But how much should we put on Lou? I mean, like Zach Carter, Cam Taylor-Britt is like, okay. Dax Hill, I guess he's not the player they wanted to be. Miles Murphy hasn't done much. Joseph Asai, I don't know. Like Tyler Shelvin didn't become a thing. I guess like none of their players are really turning into much. Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt feel like pretty good stories to tell. I don't know. Trey Hendricks kind of.
When were those guys acquired versus like they're now second contract guys?
Some of them,
yeah. So it's like, I mean, you're talking a snapshot of winning. Should we do the thing?
I just don't feel like they've done a good enough job of like building it out and like replacing talent and keeping talent. I don't know. I think it's hard. It's a hard place to be successful.
Let's go back to 2022. No, you know what? Let's go to 2020. Let's go to the year after we went Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Logan Wilson, Akeem Davis Gaither with your first 4 picks in 2020. Let's go the year after that. We went Jamar Chase at 5, looking like a home run pick.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Jackson Carman at 46. Joseph Asai at 69. Cam Sample at 111. Tyler Shelvin at 122. Dante Smith at 139. And Evan McPherson at 149. I'll stop at 150. What do you like there besides Jamar Chase?
Nothing. Cam Sample is a decent rotational player, but he had the Achilles last year.
2022 is Dax Hill at 31, Cam Taylor-Britt at 60, Zachary Carter at 95, Cordell Volson at 136.
Taylor-Britt's been a starter, but a high variance player.
And Volson overachieved early, and it feels like he's unfortunately regressed as it's gone.
Yeah, I think he held the left guard job, and then I think he was like, you're like, oh, he's been a starter, he's got some upside. And then he never, right. He's the same player since his rookie year.
2023 is Miles Murphy at 28, DJ Turner at 60, Jordan Battle at 95, Charlie Jones at 163. I'm going to throw Chase Brown in at 163 because it might be one of the best picks that they've made in this stretch that we've talked about so far.
There's nothing to show for that. I mean, DJ Turner's got a chance to play a little bit lately.
And then 2024 is obviously the book is very new still. There's a lot.
Yeah, but that's not looking good, Kyle.
Yeah, Chris Jenkins at 49. You got Jermaine Burton's already on his last legs here. McKinley Jackson at 97. Eric Alls dealt with some more injuries after injuries in college at 115, and then Josh Newton at 149.
They have nothing to show for their last 4 drafts besides Jamar Chase. Literally nothing. For a team that's not going to take care of their own players and really do much in free agency.
Cam Taylor-Britt.
Okay. That's your second best pick in 4 years. Like, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Well, and you can expand this into some of Cincinnati's trends too, where they're not a team that really moves around the board a whole lot.
Right.
And it's like the joke was like, unless they get a comp pick for losing a guy in free agency, it's usually okay, whatever their organic picks are, just the picks they're going to make, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not a way to, if you're not going to pay competitively, this is not a way to maintain a winning outlook for a franchise. And I know like a lot of Bengals fans are pissed off.
They should be.
They should be pissed off. Somebody, Chris Rolig, the managing editor of Bengals Wire, I don't know if they're plugged into us on the recording studio or not, but this just came up on the timeline. And it's Bengals offseason every year. And it's that guy wearing the maroon button-down shirt holding up another one of the maroon button-down shirts that he unwrapped at Christmas.
Yeah. Terrific.
And it's that picture, and the label is Bengals offseason.
It's terrific. It's absolutely terrific. Yeah. It's absolutely terrific. All right, let's get this one. Intel says Jason Licht is the most underrated GM in the league with his ability to draft, have success in free agency, and create a culture that brings people back for less money. He is easily a top 5 GM and probably top 3.
Jason Licht is one of the most impressive year-over-year executives with the job that he does, in my opinion.
People forget the Bucs have won that division 4 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think underrated is probably the right word. Because he's not really celebrated to the degree that others are, and I think he's got a lot more to show for what his team has done and how he's been able to replenish. And I mean, they've certainly had their life cycles and come in and out of it and had to deal with holes, but they win. They have talent. They keep talent, and feels like he creates quite the culture there.
Well, and let's put this in perspective too. Do you know what year he took over as a GM?
Probably was a few years before Brady, right?
It was 14.
Wow.
So he went 2-14, 6-10, 9-7, 5-11, 5-11, 7-9.
They stuck with him.
They stuck with him. And then they get Brady and they have the breakthrough. They go 11-5, win the Super Bowl, then 13-4. And then the last 3 years, it's been 8-9, 9, and 8 and 10 and 7. And they made the playoffs 5 straight years. They didn't even make the playoffs and had one winning season in his first 2 for 6 seasons.
The kind of working. Jameis was so goofy in that stretch, right?
Yeah.
Like counterintuitive.
And that was his first year was the year they got the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like we keep doing this and we keep coming back to, wow, they stuck with them. And then, wow, here we are.
Oh, here's the breakthrough. You learn from your mistakes long enough and you get enough pieces right that you know what you're working with. And then you get the big breakthrough piece and then it pays off for you.
Because GMs don't really get second chances.
Right.
Not really a thing.
Right.
All right.
So
all right. We got more to get to on the other side of it, including conversation on the floor of wins for the Patriots in 2025. Folks, be sure to stick with us. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's going to cut down the nets. You can pick your favorites, folks. I got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props, and you can stay in the action with tournament games happening almost every single day. There's always something exciting to bet on. Plus, it's easy and fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, Brandon's coming in hot. Trevor Lawrence will be given the Daniel Jones treatment after yet another disappointing season.
No, I don't think so. They didn't double down on that contract, right? This contract's a little different than Danny Dimes.
I think that's a little unfair to Trevor. And I think Trevor deserves a lot of criticism, but like Daniel Jones, that like kind of got to the point where he really kind of just couldn't function. He just couldn't do anything regular.
Yeah. Now, I think you're probably, if this year ends up being a disaster year for Jacksonville again and Trevor struggles greatly again, like I do think that's where you kind of start to hit the point of concern about like, what do we need to do for this to click? Because they've put a lot since fumbling greatly with Urban Meyer with the first hire. Mm-hmm. They've put a lot of resources in the players. They made a hire with him specifically in mind. It obviously didn't work out, but like, and I know some of that's Doug Peterson and his stubbornness with Press Taylor and the coaching that like, I know there's parts of that are not Trevor Lawrence, but you know, at some point you do get to a point where you have to ask yourself, like, what do we need to change about our environment for this to click into place for a guy that has the talent? Because, you know, we haven't seen it yet. So I'm not going to push the panic button on Trevor if it doesn't click all into place this year, but like it is one of the more fascinating situations I think to look at.
Trevor Lawrence's highs have been so much higher than Daniel Jones, which I think is another worthwhile point to bring up here.
And his lows have been nowhere near as low.
Right.
I don't think as Daniel Jones has happened.
Right. August, who I have figured out is a Patriots fan. I didn't know if I
didn't
realized
know
that. I don't think I realized.
The guy
that.
with the buoy for the picture.
Yeah. August says the floor for the Patriots for 2025 is 6 wins. Might be selling it short, right? Like
The floor, though. He's talking about the floor.
right, the floor. I mean,
They're 2025 opponents.
First of all, this team won 4 games last year.
They did.
I think okay.
All right, so they played the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets twice.
Went 2 division games, right? Going low.
We'll put the floor at 2 wins in the division.
Yeah, they won. They can replicate their 2 wins that they had last year in the division.
They play the AFC North.
We can get one of those.
Okay, so now we're at 3. They play the Raiders and the Titans. They can get one of those.
Get one of those.
If we're going absolute floor. If this
absolute
is
floor, and I think, and if you thought it was aggressive to say that they get one of the North, then say we're pretty much saying 2 of the North plus the Raiders and Titans.
Yep.
Okay. Where are we at cumulatively?
That's at 4.
Okay.
We have the New York Giants as our bonus opponent.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, we'll give you that one, right?
Right.
And then the NFC South with the Saints, Panthers, Bucks, and Falcons.
Conservatively won.
So I would guess the absolute floor would be 6. I would take the over on 6.
I think their defense is going to give them a floor. Like that defense is looking nice. And I thought Drake may impress me. I know it's not true for everybody, but they got work to do on the offense. But that defense is a lot better. Mike Vrabel's a lot better of a coach. Drake May in year 2, he'll have a better supporting cast in some ways. Yeah, I think they win 6 games at least.
Yeah.
Evan says that meatballs are overrated. They're not a good option for a sub, and they're boring in pasta. Might as well order a beef patty with your pasta. Meatloaf is better than meatballs, but not by much.
I think meatballs done well are good. You can miss me with the Costco frozen meatballs. You just throw in the sheet tray and throw in the oven for 25 minutes. Like that's not doing it for me. But we actually had meatballs last night for dinner.
Like you just had meatballs?
Like last night. They're like this big. Like
okay.
Large.
So you like made them?
No, they were pre-made and then we cooked them.
Okay.
But they weren't like pre-made frozen. You thaw out and cook.
I think we got
you have to like.
Yeah, I like meatballs, but I've never. Here's the thing: is like nobody's saying that meatballs are filet mignon, like or some like rare delicacy. Like they're like kind of accepted for what they are. So I don't really
pretty versatile.
Yeah, but I mean, like overrate. Like nobody's like, oh, I got to get some meatballs. Like it. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I think that's where I struggle with. Like, all right, I can understand if you don't love meatballs or whatever, but like when you say they're overrated, what is the expectation here? We're not talking about A+ type stuff here.
Last meal is
not a single person on earth, right? Yeah, I think that was a perfect way to sum that up. Nobody's last meal is meatballs.
It's like, yeah, can I just get a crock pot of meatballs for my last go round?
Right. So like for what they are, I think they're completely fine. This one is Galaxy Brain. It's a good one to finish on. Douglas says teams should be able to draft rights to players before they are done in college, like the NHL does. Would players like Arch Manning or Jeremiah Smith, is Jeremiah Smith that guy I always text you about? Is that for Ohio State?
That guy, you can't believe that he's
that guy,
freshman.
That guy's good. He's not even eligible after this season.
No. Jeez. He's got 2 more years.
That guy, oh my God, he has 2 more years.
Yes.
That guy can ball.
Yes.
So would players like Arch Manning or Jeremiah Smith be drafted by bad teams who want a longer term approach?
I don't think people running NFL teams would like this. Like, what's the job security like of running a baseball team versus the job security of running a football team? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I would assume you have a much safer long-term because you have like a formal developmental pipeline. You're managing more players and more contracts and
So I don't know if baseball, NHL does do this, right? But NHL players take like 8 years to matter, right? Like that's the deal. Like you draft a player in the NHL and then like in 7 or 8 years, they might get to play 12 minutes in a game.
If you're if you're Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry in Cleveland, are you going to draft Arch Manning? Also, like the contact sport element of football, there's a lot that can go wrong in that period of time.
So the take is that they should be able to do this. I understand the reluctancy, but you like, okay.
No,
it's
have an eligible
thought-provoking.
player pool, and that's it. It is that there's a lot there.
And like, when do you start being eligible to draft the rights of a player?
Right, you go to like, oh, he's got a 5-star. Let me draft this 5-star freshman before he's ever played it down that just enrolled at Ohio State. Like,
be crazy, right?
No, I'm out.
Could you imagine the logistical nightmare that would be? We're sitting there going through, okay, we got to set our board like, oh crap, these 18 players have already been drafted. Are they going to do the combine? Is no one's doing the scene? Like, oh, your entire your draft circuit is done.
Yeah. I'm all the way out on this.
It's thought provoking though. If there's something we didn't think about, leave a YouTube comment. I'd like to hear something.
Let us
if
know.
You're for this, like, tell me why we should be for this.
Argue for it on your behalf and see if we could change our minds. Is that guy with the coffee cup changed my mind? That's me right now. Change my mind. Leave a comment. That's going to do it for us here today on the show. I'm Kyle Krabs. He's Joe Marino. Appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We are out of here. Enjoy the weekend ahead. Hopefully your team signs some players you like in free agency now that it is open. I'll be back to talk to you all again on Monday.